frightened by my disguise. It's me. Here's the plan, amigo.
This review is going to cover the final 2 episodes of Series 8, as I need to make a point about how such a promising idea can be destroyed, thus ultimately making this finale a contestant for the worst of all Doctor Who series since its revival. I'm going to be covering some of the more general comments I have about this series overall as a separate video. I hope you all enjoy my review of the Series 8 finale. In the first 10 seconds of the first episode, I have a problem with Clara's "shut up" comments having a cut between each "shut up." It looks so shit. Why couldn't they just have had her roaming around the room in one take? Is she really that bad at saying those 2 words?
Shut up, shut up.
Probably, yeah. Anyway, we find that Danny was killed by Clara. How, you ask? Well, if Danny wasn't on the phone, he'd probably be more aware of his surroundings and wouldn't have just walked into the middle of the road. However, a bigger problem lies in how Danny was able to be killed by the car that hit him. Danny is seen standing in the middle of the road for roughly 3 seconds. That is ample time for the car to do an emergency brake because Danny is in his eye line. This doesn't rule out the possibility of the driver being drunk, unaware, or just plain idiotic, but it is not like he walked in front of a really busy road, because there were no cars seen driving in the 3 seconds that it took him to be hit by the car. What I do have to commend about this scene, however, is the fantastic sound design and music. The music stops suddenly with the cut back to Clara, and we have silence except for Clara's voice until the woman picks up the phone. The tension and build up here is excellent, but the logic isn't. We then have this beautiful time lapse where Clara arrives at the scene, but as soon as we see her perspective, Danny has died and we are left in a rather sad state of mind. I won't deny I felt rather emotional at this point, because I can honestly say that Danny was a somewhat interesting character. If it wasn't for Clara's imbecilic actions and influences, then I might have felt even more for him and her. When we look at Danny's memorial on the road, I can't help but wonder what a tragic state the set designers are in now. Considering they only acquire selfies of Danny, no family photos or pictures with friends or Clara. Interesting also that we have the same picture put up twice, and 2 of the same photograph, only one is black and white. I know the current nitpickings I have so far are very minor, but they cannot go unnoticed. The Doctor won't answer his phone, and then he answers his phone. What then follows is one of the most gripping scenes we've seen in this series. Granted, we are taken back to the Fires of Pompeii episode in 2008, but I can't excuse the brilliant writing and Capaldi's performance. Clara holds a very dominant place here, and I love how I felt the TARDIS's pain whenever Clara threw a TARDIS key into the lava. When it's revealed that the Doctor had the authority all along, I really have to admire Capaldi at this point because it's almost Shakespearean. The Doctor is acting in this scene, and Capaldi acts as the Doctor. The mask he puts on to exploit Clara for her selfish needs was wonderful to watch. It's good to be reminded from time to time that he is the greatest space and time traveling character in contemporary science fiction. When Clara comes to terms with what she's done, it's great because she sounds like a drunken teenager coming home from a night out, only to find she's lost her keys to her house. The only problem with this scene is a ridiculous squelching noise that is heard when the final TARDIS key is thrown into the lava. Just listen to this. Whose idea was that? God, imagine if Gollum made that noise when he fell into the lava at the end of Return of the King. It wouldn't have won any of the Oscars that it did. So it turns out that the sleep patches induce a dream state instead of falling asleep. However, this dream state is questionable considering people in reality don't directly affect your dreams, yet the Doctor talks to her and basically controls her throughout it. Nonetheless, an excellent scene that I enjoyed watching again for this review. Once Clara comes to terms with the fact that the Doctor trolled her pretty fucking hard, he trolls her again and they go on another adventure to find Danny. Don't get too excited, children. Those tears aren't real because her makeup isn't smudged at all. Danny wakes up from his death in an office, is ordered coffee, and stands up twice in a row. The whole bureaucratic system of organising people's deaths for the creation of Cybermen is an absolutely incredible idea. Chris Addison's performance here really shines through as he's comedic and suspicious at the same time. Interesting that he played Oliver in The Thick of It alongside Peter Capaldi before Doctor Who. The Doctor says something that I think the whole world could really benefit from hearing, quite frankly.
And that won't do.
What won't?
You won't. Look at you. I need skeptical,
clever. Critical, I don't need more people.
So the pair start wandering around the mausoleum looking for Danny. The character created by the lighting and set design is spooky and intriguing, and Missy comes into view. Her characterization reminds me of Miranda Richardson as Elizabeth I in Blackadder, except more creepy and dangerous. Her performance is excellent and interesting to watch, and I really enjoyed seeing her play out this strangely demented character. On to the next scene, however, I became extremely annoyed as to the product placement of iPads in the afterlife. It would appear the BBC are secretly endorsing Apple products, which despite how relevant they may be, it's still product placement. And I wanted a genuinely good reason why the iPads are in the promised land. Sadly, there isn't. Instead, we must accept and laugh at that pathetic Steve Jobs joke.
Imagine babies in wombs could talk to other babies in other wombs. What would they say? What would they think life was like? They'd think that life was 9 months long. Then boom, trapdoor opens, out you fall. Gone forever. Never hear from those guys again.
Mate, I think Freud would have some very strong objections to your thesis right there. Anyway, we have a very interesting sequence involving Danny and a young lad that he shot during an Afghan raid. I would be more sympathetic with Danny during this sequence had he not been rubbing in our faces throughout the entire series that he was a soldier. We find out that the skeletons on view are encased in dark water, wherein which we can't see the protective shells that are keeping the corpses intact.
Another government inspection? So soon? Why is there all this swearing?
Oh, I've got a lot of internalized anger.
In case you didn't realise, this is a little nod to Capaldi's role in The Thick of It, wherein which he works for the government and swears a lot. Danny's chat with the kid ends abruptly when he tries to touch him, and we find out that TV noise is the sound of the recently departed. The Doctor is very sceptical about this idea, which results in Missy waking up all the Cybermen. It's an interesting reveal when this shot appears, identifying the villain to anybody who watches this show frequently enough. Also interesting to hear that a variation of the Cyberman theme is played when it occurs. This also reminds me about why people shouldn't watch the Next Time trailers, purely because it shows the Cybermen in the trailer for this episode.
The tanks are activating. They're not supposed to do that.
Oh, very funny. Oh wait, you call that acting?
They're not supposed to do that.
Danny then establishes that he has absolutely no individuality to him whatsoever when he tries to recall something that only he would say. Maybe he could have just said,
I was a soldier.
and she'd be convinced. The Doctor comes outside and finds he's
slap bang in the middle of London.
whilst Clara finally gives up on Danny because he's such a nobody. Seb then offers Danny suicide via the tablet, and I genuinely found this hilarious, despite it is supposed to be an emotional moment. Why are the letters in such a ridiculous font flashing red as if the computer cared for him? Think of it this way. When you are asked, "Are you sure you want to delete this file?" by a computer, it doesn't flash red with dramatic fonts and beeping noises. It's just a simple yes or no. I guess this is the future for computer interfaces now, ladies and gentlemen. Apple CEOs should take note on this revolutionary design choice. The Doctor then tries to warn people about the Cybermen that are about to destroy the world, but comes out as hilarious as Missy deflects his claims by stating he's a drunken Scotsman. When it's revealed that Missy is the female regeneration of the Master, I was approving but disappointed at the same time. As an unfortunate die-hard fan of this TV show, I think it's unfortunate that she wasn't the Rani. I was getting so excited when she was saying about her having two hearts, so we could have something a bit more original than a character who we've already seen before in the revival. Not to mention the fact that the Cybermen have been recycled, but now the Master too has been brought up. But still, a fantastic idea nonetheless. I give Dark Water an 8 out of 10 because it has a few annoying moments, but it also has some genius ideas and intense moments too. Does the second part pay off just as good? Of course not. Let's discuss it right now. But first, I need a sippy. The first mistake the second episode pulls off is this ridiculously pointless staging of Clara disguising herself as the Doctor. If my interest levels weren't already at a peak due to last week's episode, I got even more of a raging hard-on, interest burst when this concept was brought up. Because Clara has always been quite a mystery to Doctor Who fans, we could have finally had some intriguing reveal about Clara's character as a result of her being a device for the Doctor. But it's not. The only reason she puts on this facade is to escape the Cyberman. An opportunity that is lost to plot convenience is rather annoying to say the least.
My boy.
Boys!
So all of a sudden, more smartphone product placement appears. Do these people not remember the Cybermen and the Daleks that showed up in London in 2006? Oh my days, the plot holes go on for miles. Why aren't people recognizing those things and running for their lives? What is so funny about selfies in a TV show? Nothing! However much they may seem to be promoting smartphones, it is very much what the idiot British public would go and do, and I appreciate that recognition. Osgood comes along and begins the Mexican standoff between UNIT and the Cybermen. I think it is good to remember that UNIT do exist. It does confuse me though how they seem to believe that they have the upper hand, despite the Cybermen will not be penetrated by human weaponry. So the Cybermen are causing themselves to rain down on graveyards so that they can raise the dead again with chemicals that give them Cybermen bodies. We enter a morgue and this stupid announcement really does outline how the British nation seems to have completely forgotten about the Cyberman invasion that happened 8 years previously. We then see Danny Pink being revived as a Cyberman, and I think it would have been beneficial to audiences to see some sort of transformation from a human carcass to a Cyberman, or even have some sort of alternate design of Cyberman that would have water coming out of its parts or blue all over, just to identify that they're Cybermen of the dead. Unfortunately, because there isn't this kind of identification, we are left to assume that they just appear as Cybermen magically under the blankets. When they wake the Doctor, we establish that Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart's daughter is running UNIT now. It annoys me that they could include a reference to an old character like that, but they couldn't make Missy the Rani. They even have a massive fucking picture of him on the plane, just to rub it in my face. So it turns out that the world has elected the Doctor as the president of Earth, which to me sounds like a bad joke told at a cheese and wine party. But who cares? I forgot I can't take this show seriously anymore. Apparently he has control over every army in the world at the moment, which is stupid because the armies of Earth don't stand a chance against Cybermen. An interesting but rejected idea that comes out from Missy's mouth is about Gallifrey being stored in another part of the universe entirely. This would have made for a very interesting way for the story to unfold in Series 9, had it not been for the final part of the episode where the Master was trolling the Doctor with words the whole time. I get it, the Master is made to tinker and disrupt the Doctor's life, but it was too much of an interesting subject to be grounded to a halt. Osgood then makes an odd jape about having files on all of the ex-Prime Ministers and claims that Harold Saxon wasn't the worst, despite he basically led the world into a totalitarian death trap. Obviously the miners' strike was way worse in comparison. Anyway, Clara wakes up in the graveyard and we see the first cyber zombies come to be. I don't know what it is about our culture and zombies. They seem to be fucking everywhere at the moment. TV, video games, movies, maybe they're just reflective of the mental state that humans live in right now. Idiots that just consume flesh because it tastes good. I would be lying if I said these cyber zombies look crap. It's a great twist on the Living Dead vibe, but it is just more zombies at the end of the day. Back on the plane, Missy sings a funny take on Hey Mickey that would later become a whole music video. It's amusing while it lasts, but then we have a rather cliche moment of Missy asking Osgood to get close to her. When she tells her that she's going to kill her, I felt shivers running down my spine, dude. She's one messed up time lady. The scene is intense, but I really can't understand why fans got so upset by killing off Osgood. She is nothing more than an avid fan of the Doctor. I really don't care about her death. It also doesn't make any sense how her glasses didn't disintegrate, considering Dr. Chang's glasses were destroyed when he was disintegrated. Missy starts to bring down the plane and I suddenly realise that UNIT would have benefited greatly from flying two planes, one with the Doctor on and one with Missy on board. However, this would still result in the Cybermen climbing on board the Doctor's plane regardless. The only possible change would be that Osgood might still be alive. Anyway, back in the graveyard, Clara wanders about some more. Whilst I'm seeing these Cybermen, I am happy that these aren't Russell T Davies Cybermen that just cry out "Do it!" all the time. That got really annoying. These Cybermen are much more interesting, but to reiterate, I think the design of the zombie Cybermen could have been a lot better. Even the graveyard Cybermen could have moss and mud coming out of them, but I keep forgetting that Doctor Who's budget won't be changing anytime soon. When Danny's face is shown, I'm quite shocked at what's been done to him, but I think the good Cyberman in disguise card was played before with Yvonne when she was upgraded and started killing Cybermen. Only this time there's more emotional baggage and more boring stuff happening around them. Seriously, the tone of Clara and the cyber graveyard is so grey it's almost as bad as the opening to Barney's Great Adventure. So the Brigadier's daughter comes to the back of the plane and she gets thrown out in a rather hilarious fashion. Once again, another character who didn't quite get enough time invested in them gets a semi-death I don't care about. The Doctor saving the TARDIS was quite fun to watch as it played out like some sort of James Bond parachute scene. The Doctor lectures to Danny about not being selfish, and all I can think about is the hundreds of other more interesting things I could be doing than watching this garbage. This depressing scene is so stale and emotionless, I can't help but feel bored. It's not until Missy comes in dressed as Mary Poppins that I'm excited once again to see what her spontaneous ego will cause her to do, but ultimately ends up being rather dull as well. Considering the Master wants the Doctor to capture the universe, she says that nothing will get in its way. But what about if an army of Daleks comes along? We know how shit the Cybermen were against one Dalek in Doomsday.
You would destroy the Cybermen with 4 Daleks. We would destroy the Cybermen with 1 Dalek.
So realistically, this army is merely second best. Nevertheless, we are forced to see flashbacks from the whole series that add unnecessary extra time to an episode that is already 10 minutes longer than usual. So Danny Pink sorts everything out with some explosions like some Michael Bay fiasco and everything turns back to normal. These scenes in the graveyard take up so much of the episode I am once again forced to question the show's budget. What on earth was Moffat thinking when he was writing this script? Ah shit, I've probably gone and blown most of the budget on those plane scenes. I don't think I'll be able to afford anything else. Maybe we should just shoot the rest of it in a graveyard near my house. That would be great. We then find Kate alive on the ground untouched by the fall because her father saved her. It's a nice recall back to the old series again, but I don't feel invested at all in her or the Brigadier, so I find myself not feeling relieved that she's alive. I just don't care. Anyway, he goes away and we find ourselves 2 weeks after the events where Danny brings the child he killed back to life. Which is nice, but I can't help but feel that the whole Danny and Clara thing is being milked way too hard here. I'm glad we won't have any more of that in the next series. So, that final scene, Yeah, I really have bugger all to say about it because once again it's so bloody bland. I don't get what it is about these two being so dishonest with each other, but holy crap, that hug was just outright awkward. I would be more satisfied had I known that this was Clara's last episode, but it isn't. What can they possibly milk out of these two awkward people that hasn't already been done? Oh, God help us in autumn. So, did it suck? That last portion did unfortunately ruin the finale for me. I give Death in Heaven a 4 out of 10 because it just drags on and on with the graveyard and the cafeteria scenes being so bloody slow. It's a shame that Capaldi isn't given much opportunity to shine. The structure and resolutions were lazy and all over the place. Missy, the action, and the ideas established from the previous episode that reside closer to the beginning of this episode are the only things I have to praise about it. I only have one thing left to say after this hefty review. Bring on Series 9 for me to scrutinize! Hi guys, I just thought you should know that when my channel hits 100 subscribers, I will do a special Did It Suck video for the first Harry Potter movie. So depending on how badly you want to see that video, get sharing and promoting my channel if you like what you've seen in the past year. I'm planning on reviewing Season 5 of Game of Thrones, reviewing the rest of Better Call Saul, and a Dark Souls 2 playthrough, so there's loads of content to look forward to. I also look forward to hearing about what you guys think of my content in the future, and thank you all for your patience. It's been a good year. Let's have another good one.